All right, welcome everyone to NDI November. This is our 6th annual NDI November. We're going to take the month of November because there's so much news about NDI to focus on all things new and exciting in NDI. We will have people in the NDI world coming into the show. We will have NDI Primer. We will have Dr. NDI. We're going to have a roundtable at the end, but today I am so excited with our kickoff. Miguel Coutinho is coming in from London via the cloud, via the internet, remote viewing. He's coming in here, NDI on the way. He's the new head of NDI. Welcome to the show, Miguel.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning to everyone. Very happy to be here, and thank you for the invite.
So tell us a little about your history and some of your goals for NDI now that you're the man at the top.
So I was lucky enough to join NDI in August 2022, which was a pretty transformative time for NDI as we were basically building a formal team around the technology. And so I have been able to accompany this growth that we have seen over the last 3 years with NDI. The goal with NDI is basically to have it everywhere possible. And internally, we like to say we want NDI to exist wherever our users need it. Even if they don't know yet about it, they might have a problem that NDI helps solve. A quick example, right now in this room I'm in, I have a display, I have a computer, I have a VSRT TriCaster, Telecam, PTZ cameras, we have lighting panels, for example, and everything here can be controlled with NDI as of today. So all these form factors, and there are way more where NDI can be used and where we hopefully will see NDI being adopted in the next few months.
Awesome. So I know you've got some introductory slides and some things you want to go over on the history of NDI and some of the amazing milestones that have been reached. So I'm going to turn the show over to you and you can take that part from here.
Thank you, Gary. Please feel free to interrupt whenever you have any follow-up questions. So first I would like to start with a quick update for 2025. As of today, NDI has way more than 200 licensees in the ecosystem. This means software, cloud, and hardware partners that have adopted NDI through the NDI Advanced SDK. On top of this, we have way more that use the NDI Free SDK or the NDI SDK, mostly on the software side of things. When we compare the number of devices shipped, so hardware devices shipped by our licensees so far this year, comparing with last year, we see more than 100% growth. So we are actually doubling the size of the ecosystem that's being shipped in terms of hardware every year. And when we look at all other parameters, growth is actually accelerating. And so what we will see in the next 2 to 3 years is these numbers will keep doubling and doubling and doubling. In practice, this means that as of today, a new unique NDI node, both on the software and the hardware side, is generated every 2 minutes. So since we start talking, actually 2 new NDI nodes have been added to the NDI ecosystem. Any questions so far, Gary?
No, I'm very excited, and I know you got a lot to share.
Thank you. So starting with video and our mission of removing the limits of video connectivity, today NDI is the clear first choice for professional PTZ cameras. So as I'm sure you noticed, and many people in your audience have noticed as well, companies like Panasonic, Sony, Telecam, or even, for example, Aver have followed the route of others like Birdog, and today offer NDI in all their products. These are what we call basically portfolio expansion deals inside NDI from a business perspective, and we will have a few more to announce until the end of the year for new form factors.
And Miguel, what I'd say to that is, if someone's selling a PTZ camera and it doesn't support NDI, then it's probably not a very good brand of PTZ cameras, because everyone who's selling something that's meaningful for video production or Pro AV has adopted NDI at this point.
Completely agree, Gary, and I think we will see that already being present in more broadcast or live production specific screens, so those small ones where you can see a proxy feed, for example. but now we're also seeing NDI being adopted in larger form factors, displays for example, collaboration and presentation rooms. A particular example is MaxHub, which I'm happy to say is now a certified partner for their NDI-enabled SKUs on the display side. And we are working with 3 other very large display manufacturers in order to bring more displays into the market.
I want to ask you a question about that. You know, we sell large video displays now, apps and LED video walls. Do you see NDI at some point being able to power their walls directly without the need for a third party, you know, video wall like a Novastar or something like that, where you can actually go directly?
For sure. For sure, for sure. And I can tell you that parts of the development we have done on the display side is precisely that. For example, last year I visited a very, very large broadcaster in Manhattan, New York, and they had around 90 displays that were using NDI through converters. And so clearly there is a need for more embeddedness of NDI into the display form factor, and for sure we will see it across a wide range of different types of displays.
Awesome. I can't wait, because I will tell you, when I was visiting the Absent Factory last year and they were asking what I'd like to see, I said, I think you guys need to work with NDI and have the ability to get rid of that processor that adds $5,000 to $10,000 to the cost of a video wall. And they smiled and they looked at it and they said, yeah.
So I cannot obviously tell the brand. Maybe
Yep.
I have, or we have you to thank, but a week from now I'm visiting Asia, and one of the manufacturers we are visiting is a very large display manufacturer. So
Awesome.
let's see where that leads us. On the audio side, which I know, Gary, you are also curious about, we have seen a steady adoption of NDI, not only in video and audio workflows, but also driven a lot by audio-only workflows. So last year, Mackie, which is now part of the Rode Group, launched an audio switcher that's NDI-enabled, which added to the NDI audio ecosystem where we already had, for example, Llama. This year, we showcased speakers and amplifiers from KeyArray that are also NDI-enabled, and then we have other software partners like Telos Alliance, Waves, and AVSono. And what we are seeing internally, and hopefully will be shared very soon in the first half of 2026, is more and more hardware-focused partners in the audio world adopting NDI for audio-only workflows.
That's really cool. I think audio has, I don't want to use the word whole because I think that's not correct, but audio has been something that I was waiting to come about. Even when Dr. Cross, way back when, described NDI to me, I said, I can't wait to get my first NDI from the ground up audio mixer that is really NDI IP first, and then has, you know, traditional analog on addition to it. I know the folks at Llama are the first ones there, but I think it's going to take more people having more products, some with only 4 to 8 and some with, you know, that could do in a venue level, you know, audio mixing. I'm really excited to see stuff like that. And I can't wait to follow that growth because I do think it's a huge opportunity. And when you're putting in an infrastructure and it's all NDI, it's just easier to add an audio product that's NDI rather than have to put in another AV over IP infrastructure, which you could do. And, you know, with Netgear switches, it's a lot easier to do. But still, if you can keep everything NDI, of course, you're going to have an easier time with it. So when you're doing a video studio, your mixer, if it's an NDI audio mixer, your world's just going to get easier.
We completely agree, and hopefully the ecosystem agrees with us too as well.
Awesome.
Now looking at metadata, which is a very important part of the NDI ecosystem, NDI workflows, and one that Roberto, the famous Dr. NDI, will dive into a little bit more tomorrow from a technical perspective.
Yep.
In the last 12 months, we have launched also a huge initiative to publish more metadata standards. So obviously, any manufacturer can push any kind of metadata through, let's call it the NDI pipe. However, what we are now trying to do with the Metadata Lab initiative is to bring everyone around the same standards for each specific use case where metadata is needed in the NDI world. And so to anyone in the audience, no matter if you are an end user, a manufacturer, a software developer, or anyone else, I invite you to visit this page at ndi.video and basically submit more metadata standards. What we will basically do is review them internally, give feedback if feedback is needed, and then once we believe the standard as it's being proposed is ready, we will publish it online, and we will say, if you are doing NDI or if you are doing this specific thing over NDI, this is the standard you should use. And we are also starting to certify these on the certification part of the process. And so we are not only pushing it upstream. Once devices come into market, OEMs, for example, send those devices to our certification lab in San Antonio. We certify it. And if it doesn't pass certification, we help OEMs and ODMs to improve metadata adoption so that they can pass certification.
You know, one of the things that I think people think of metadata, they think that's getting into some crazy kind of thing. And I like to remind people that's going to allow for a lot more scalability and flexibility because each device will know what to expect where. So color information will be in the same place. Be it screen size or bit rates or whatever will be in the same place. And I think we all think of those basic things like I described. When you get into metadata, we can have thousands of fields. And if everyone's got their own fields with their own names and their own specifications, no one's going to talk to each other. If we standardize on a subset that could be very large, it could be thousands of fields and thousands of points that go in there, now all of a sudden interoperability becomes almost automatic. The devices can talk to each other. They're looking and finding stuff in the right way. So this initiative, I like to say, it's kind of like creating one language for all the metadata to talk together. I call it English, Spanish, Chinese, doesn't matter. But all the NDI devices are going to speak it. And I think once we do that, I have a feeling people are going to be figuring out things to do with NDI that you or I haven't imagined yet.
Oh, no, for sure, Gary. And as we are seeing audio-only workflows, we are also starting to see metadata-only workflows over NDI for control, for example, remote control. And not only PTZ cameras, but other types of form factors like lighting as well.
Cool. And then I think you've got some cloud updates for us too, right?
Yes. And so this was announced earlier this year. NDI and AWS entered into a partnership so that NDI became a native offering on the Elemental Media Connect AWS service, which means that anyone that was like kind of tinkering with NDI SDKs in order to put together an NDI workflow in the cloud can now do it in a more native way. And I'm happy to announce that this partnership will keep developing and more things will come to the market through it soon enough.
Very excited. For those who don't know, Elemental is a video encoding technology that Amazon bought, I think, almost a decade ago, and they've just been building it into the AWS, the web services, the way they handle video. So by getting you in there, that's something else. And once people start playing with it, it's just going to open up new opportunities for NDI that, once again, I think you and I may have dreamt of them, but we never really thought someone would need it or want it. And that's one of the things I want to stress here with NDI is that this is our 6th annual NDI November. So much of what's come across with NDI in the last 6 years is not just Dr. Cross's vision, but the NDI user community at all levels, giving input to the NDI team through third partners, through direct communications, through emails, through feature requests, through bugs that made everyone crazy. The fix was more elegant than we even thought we had a problem with. And I think that responsiveness is something that's really to be admired. And I think the decision by, VizRT to make NDI its own company has allowed you guys to focus on expanding the community, expanding your third-party partners, and all that goodness. So I'm going to turn it over to you to get into that a little bit more. But just kudos to that vision level, because I think it goes beyond what Dr. Cross even imagined. It really is a global standard that stands on its own.
No, completely agree. We are seeing more and more use cases. I can give you one of those examples where when we first got the email, we were like, why would anyone want NDI for this? But then it makes perfect sense, obviously, which is like 2 years ago, we were asked by a company that produces baby monitors if they could adopt NDI, right? And like, it's not very different from any NDI workflow that exists today. And so obviously, if it solves their problems, it's obvious that they would adopt it.
Cool. So
regarding the community feedback, oh, sorry.
No, you go.
Just saying that regarding the NDI larger community feedback, I think we are more and more open to getting feedback. I agree that we have become more and more responsive, at least over the last 3 years, and we will only get better into that aspect.
Cool. So we had the 6.2 upgrade and the 6.3 is coming out. Why don't you walk us through some of the goodness that's in there? Now, for everyone, this is an overview from Miguel. Me and Dr. NDI are going to get into that a lot more in depth tomorrow, but I think it's important for Miguel to show you that because he can kind of give you the visionary 10,000 foot level, whereas me and Dr. NDI are going to get more into the woods and even go into some troubleshooting and stuff like that.
Exactly. So part of the work we have been doing tech-wise this year is to allow for greater monitoring and control of all of your NDI nodes, no matter if they are receivers or senders. And NDI 6.2 was a really big step into that direction. So we introduced receiver discoverability and control, receiver status and monitoring. We introduced a new tool, so the first new tool in quite a while, I believe, since the NDI Bridge tool. And we also improved the discovery service, which is basically a way for companies to better integrate discovery in an embedded way into their products. When we look at 6.3, this is I think for some parts of the ecosystem might not seem as big as 6.2. Internally, we believe this is a really, really big step forward because it was mostly done with two partners that we value a lot. The first thing we are introducing is HDCP converter support together with our partner ProIT AV. And the second one, which we developed together with KiloView, is bitstream support for NDI high bandwidth in hardware platforms. So this is a format that was already supported on the software side of the ecosystem, and now we are bringing it to the hardware side as well. This is a really big step for us because we believe in keep building and evolving the NDI ecosystem with partners and through partners, and I think that's the only way that NDI can address all the use cases that we hope it will address in the near future. And again, thanks to ProIT AV and KiloView, we were able to expand how you can use NDI, in particular in the case of HDCP, where we are bringing NDI to new workflows and new spaces that really require support for HDCP in order to be compliant.
You know, it's kind of funny how things come full circle every now and then. The beginning of NDI was really about software, software, software. And now we're kind of coming back as looking at embedding in hardware. Now, it's really software embedded in hardware, let's be honest, but it's that hardware looking at which I think turns things more into appliances than computers and turns things into truly native NDI devices as opposed to adapted to NDI devices. And once again, I think that's kudos to Viz's vision of having NDI be a standalone entity, because I don't know that if it was still tied to either VizRT or the old new tech VizRT that you would have gotten to this level to allow things to come full circle. So I'm excited that we're going to see NDI audio hardware. I know the KiloView stuff because we do a lot of work with KiloView, so we're excited about that. And I'm really excited to learn more about the Pro ITAV thing because HDCP is one of those things that we in the pro video market don't really think about, but people who are the IT people running a AV over IP in, let's say, a 300 office building.
Yep.
You don't need that. So could you go into a little bit more in layman terms why HDCP is so important? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I think it's over a lot of people's heads. And I think when they hear this, they're going to be like, wow.
That's perfectly fine. So the use case we have in mind is exactly what you said. So gigantic office headquarters, for example, or offices with several meeting rooms, where basically you want to bring an NDI source. And in that environment, you need to make sure that you are not projecting anything that goes against copyright rights, for example. And that's what HDCP helps with. And so this guarantees that you can input an NDI stream into a device or a system that's checking for this copyright protection, and that we will be able to say, it's fine for you to read this because this is HDCP compliant. What would happen without this is that if you have these systems at these big offices that expect everything to be HDCP compliant is that if you were to try to bring an NDI source, it would basically say we cannot display it, right? Which is, I would say, one of the most frustrating things in the media ecosystem as a whole, right? Is when you connect something and it just doesn't work and you don't know why. And many times this is why in these types of workflows, and this is the problem we are trying to solve.
Am I jumping to a conclusion that's not there? Could this be something that could be expanded into the way that, hotel rooms all have their content done and stuff like that, and that they could also talk back to the main desk and check out?
Yes.
There's a much cheaper way than putting a special box in every room that could be hundreds of dollars cost. We could do this all, by having NDI native displays in hotel rooms.
Yep.
Very cool.
You are absolutely correct.
Cool. So the next one I want to hit you with a little bit is we don't get into network level stuff, but people hear about network, and by network I mean tier one, the networks, Paramount, NBC, ABC, Netflix, those kinds of people, what they're doing. And the buzzword on that top of the pyramid in video is still SMPT ST2110. And I know there's a lot of confusion that people have, which is, do we compete with it? Do we complement it? How does NDI fit in this world that's coming? And one of the things I want to stress is 2110 needs a lot bigger pipes to function. It wants much higher data rates. So it's definitely not for everyone yet. But talk about that a little bit for me if you could.
So I think in general, NDI and SMPT2110 complement each other. As you were saying, the needs are different between the two technologies, also because the use cases they address are slightly different. NDI is not trying to be everything for everyone, right? We are targeting most of use cases, but not all. Having said that, what we are seeing internally is some systems in these big networks being built around SMPT2110 to start with, but then when it comes time to scale, or to scale both the production of content, but also the number of facilities where you want to have video over IP, that's usually where NDI comes in. And we are seeing in a few spots NDI now growing into also these core places where SMPT2110 was the technology. And I think we will keep seeing that, not because NDI is getting closer to SMPT2110 in some of the things that SMPT2110 offers, but because the need to produce content is scaling so fast, right? Like all these networks are producing way more content than in the past, that it's impossible to do it if you are not using something that's also scalable like NDI.
And NDI does some things better, faster, easier, and cheaper. It's not saying it's always better, but there's certain things that it does it. We know how to do it. Why reinvent the wheel with a more expensive or more difficult solution to implement? So I think a lot of people the old style engineer in a television studio would be looking down at stuff like that. But I think as the industry changes and it's more run by people with a AV over IP focus, they start to realize something's working great. Don't get rid of it. Make it part of your workflow and integrate it.
Completely agree. I can tell you that part of our team on the support side is working closer with some of these big networks in order to help them adopt NDI faster. And on the roadmap side, we also have a few items that address a few of the core gaps that some of these, let's say, more traditional views of how to set up these workflows sometimes point towards.
Now, when we were doing one of our pre-show run-ins, I joked like you guys have accomplished so much and you're already there. And I almost used the word like mission accomplished. And you said, no, no, no. So I know you've got a graphic, but from your point of view as the head of NDI, where are we? Are we at the tip of the iceberg, top of the pyramid, bottom of the pyramid? How much growth, how much opportunity is really there?
We are definitely at day zero. Like NDI today is still associated a lot with professional PTZ cameras, right? Although, for example, today we see NDI as much in conferencing PTZ cameras, for example, as professional PTZ cameras.
Yeah.
A lot of use cases where NDI is used today is through a converter, right? And so going back to displays and other type of endpoints, we want NDI to be embedded into those systems. I don't think converters will go away, right? We will always have systems that are not up to date with the latest version of anything. So they are not definitely not going away, but we want NDI to be more and more embedded. I think on the software side, there is still a lot for us to do, really a lot. I think people will be surprised with some of the things we are going to launch next year with NDI and make available to the ecosystem. So again, I really think we are at day zero, and internally I like to show this number. So as NDI stands today, if you look at all the devices NDI can be put into, so only looking at the hardware side, we are at 0.01% of our mission of removing the limits of video connectivity. There is a lot more to do. Talking a little bit about roadmap, the way we are now organizing things is around 3 main buckets. So we are going to launch in the next 18 months things that make NDI more universal, meaning you can bring either NDI devices into more use cases, or NDI can be adopted into more types of devices and software applications. We are releasing a bunch of things to increase reliability, so to make sure that NDI works no matter how stressful or stressed the system is. And finally, we have a third bucket where we are also going to launch things that we believe only NDI can do as a connectivity technology.
I think that's amazing, because one of the things that I see, like, you're the man. I'm going to lobby you on some things that I know you've already thought of, but I think it's worth talking about in this show. And we're a pro video company, but video's everywhere. So, video's massively in medical. I think that's like a huge growth opportunity for all of us, because they're videotaping operations, but so much of the things is in pictures or videos that is modern medicine. Transportation uses video all the time. We're already in education, but now let's talk about, AI in education with NDI, and all these opportunities where NDI can become almost the super glue that ties this all together on other verticals. So if you had to pick 3 new things beyond AV conferences, Pro AV and Pro Video, where you think we'd go over the next couple of years, what are the places you think we're going to end up making some headroads and having NDI make better, because it's just the right solution for the right technologies?
So medical is definitely one of them, right? So we see, as you are pointing out, we are seeing video everywhere, including in surgery rooms, for example, and NDI is starting to be adopted as the transport mechanism to bring video outside of those rooms. This is starting first with our current set of hardware partners that are being adopted into these new environments and use cases, if you will. And because they have NDI, people experiment with NDI and then see, actually, this fits the purpose. So let's just adopt or build our IT system for this use case around this technology. Second, as you were also saying, conferencing and collaboration rooms for sure is a place where we will see enormous growth for NDI, both driven by multi-camera settings, right? So I think it's more and more common for us to enter into a conferencing room, and instead of 1 camera, you have 5 or even. And second, also because both HDMI and USB have pretty hard extension problems, and NDI clearly has an advantage here, and we are also filling that gap as well, or looking to fill that gap. And lastly, I think we will see more and more of NDI into at-large content creation. So actual content creators, YouTube streamers, for example, at home, that don't have any background in broadcast live production or Pro AV live production, are not IT managers into a big office headquarters, but are just trying to do things as like in a plug and play way and as easy as possible, and NDI is built around those principles, and so they end up using NDI, sometimes even without knowing exactly what NDI is. And so I think we will see more and more there. And I'm saying this not only because of the pipeline we have, but also because we are seeing a trend of content creators with very large audiences, name dropping NDI without us having to do anything with it, because it's just easy and they found out about it and they want to share with their audience.
That's awesome. Now let's go to the other side of this, and that is we're very excited. You guys have named an NDI advisory board.
Yes.
So two things. Before you tell us what it is, I want to give people a secret sauce thing that we're actually going to have on a roundtable discussions with some members, not all, unfortunately, because it's spread out over the world, of the NDI advisory board. So tell us a little about what inspired you to do it, which I love that you did. Kudos. That's a fantastic thing to be willing to open up your Komodo to people who can really share great information with you. But more importantly, who you picked to be on it, and what are the goals of that advisory board, going forward for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years?
So I think the advisory board is something we want to be a permanent organization in the NDI ecosystem. Second, we see it as a group of like-minded people that want really to push this mission of removing the limits to video connectivity, right? Which all of them are already doing before they were invited to join NDI. Now they are also doing it around the NDI journey. In terms of advisory board members, we have Jeff Moore from Ross. We have Mahmoud, who is one of the people behind the development of SRT back in the day when SRT was developed. Yep. We have Finton from Ideal Systems, Andy from Zoom. We have Ryan Hansberger on the VizRT side. And outside of myself, I believe that's it. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anyone. We meet quarterly,
Netgear,
sometimes
right?
Remotely, sometimes.
Sorry? We have someone from Netgear on the advisory board, correct?
Oh, yes, sorry. Sorry, Laurent. We also have Laurent, obviously, who even before being part of the NDI advisory board member was almost already an advisory board member because we collaborate so much with Netgear.
By far and away, he's one of my favorite NDI November guests. I think he's been on the last 3 or 4. He's a phenomenal guest. He's going to be coming on, later in the month as well. Later in the month as well. So just a great guy. So I couldn't let you forget him. But go on to what that board's mission is, because I think it's real important to hear it from you as the head of NDI.
So I think the vision is to have NDI embedded in as many devices as possible, into as many software systems as possible. NDI today is seen as, I would say, more than a transport technology rather than a connectivity technology. We're taking steps to make it more of a connectivity technology. One of the initiatives we are now working on is to keep improving the discovery experience. And without revealing too much, we want to make it closer to a consumer level experience, no matter if we are talking about a big network in Manhattan or someone at home. We also want to make it a little bit more permanent and web enabled, let's say. That's what I can reveal, right? I think today discovery still has, it is plug and play once you set it up, but it's not as permanent as it could be, and the experience sometimes is not as simple as it could already be today. So we are working on those two fronts, and more to come mid next year probably.
So we want to make it as easy as like pairing Bluetooth headphones to your phone.
Yeah, I think yes, but also then we want to make it as easy for you to always know which devices you are connected to, for you to more easily share streams with someone on the other side of the world without having to spin up NDI Bridge, for example. Yep. I would say if you think about all the best connectivity consumer experiences you have, those are the ones that are inspiring this internal effort.
Awesome. I love it. It's a great, ambitious goal. I want to thank you for being on the show. I think we had a great kickoff. I appreciate it very much. I always like to end my shows when I have a guest on saying the floor is yours. So if there's anything we missed, anything you want to bring up, anything you want to talk about, if you just want to talk about your favorite sports team, the floor is yours.
So first, thank you for having me. I think it's, as I said a few weeks ago, I have been watching NDI November. It's with a great pleasure that I'm here today. We are very open to feedback. I think you can, if you see that someone works at NDI and you have some question, or some critique, please reach out on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on a trade show, wherever you want. We are very, very open to feedback. If you are a partner watching this and you are wondering, wait a second, KiloView and ProITV did this with NDI. I have been sharing ideas. I would like to do the same. Reach out to us as well. We are more than happy to collaborate. If you have ideas on what I just said around simplified discovery, let's say, and bringing it to a more consumer level experience, reach out as well, because we are working on it right now. And I think that's the message. We want NDI to evolve in as a transparent way as possible. We want to do very unique things, although we also want to make NDI universal. And so very open to hear from the audience and anyone that watches this video later.
Awesome. I'm going to just ping my guys. Are there any questions or anything that came up that I should forward to Miguel and get some information on? You guys say them to me and I'll repeat them. I don't have them on my screen, guys, because we tried doing that and all I did was read the screen and I forgot I was interviewing people. So they pulled that technology away from me.
No worries.
Somebody asked if you could speak more on the NDI high bandwidth bitstream support in hardware.
Cool. If you could speak a little bit more on the NDI high bitstream support in hardware. I guess that's the thing you said you were doing with KiloView.
Yes. So this is a format that has already been available on software implementations, right? And now we are bringing it to hardware. This does two things: lowers latency for those, again, for those very high-end workflows, and increases also quality. So these are the two main things. I don't think we will see products outside of KiloView products with this until the end of the year. But in the first half of next year, we for sure will start seeing other types of devices from other brands that will also adopt this. But because it's on hardware, it's not an automatic firmware update. There is some work to do.
I know.
Beyond that, Roberto will also be able to give more details tomorrow.
Cool. And I know one of the things that we know people do sports are really want to know when the really high frame rates will come to NDI. So I'm going to leave it at that this is like a first step towards that direction.
Yep.
Cool. I think we got one more.
What's your approach in nations that have restrictions on data sharing over networks? Example, UAE.
What's your approach on nations restricting data sharing over networks? As an example, UAE.
Oof. I think we are always assessing how these policies evolve. And we need to work around them. That's basically what I can say. Around them, meaning not avoid them, comply with them, but trying to still provide the same experience our users expect, basically.
I guess we have a UAE located fella who's running into some difficulty doing some NDI stuff because of his country's own laws, but hopefully NDI will become universal regardless of party, regardless of who's ruling your country, and it'll just be an NDI global world. So this was great. Thank you so much, guys. Do I need to bring up the slide and hype what's coming up, or can we just say goodbye, Miguel? We're good. Okay. You want to cut to my screen? You tell me what we're doing. I'm waiting. Cool. So we're just letting everyone know, thank you for being on the show, and here's the schedule of what we have coming up for the week. There it is. And once a reminder, tomorrow we have Dr. NDI. I'm going to be doing that interview tomorrow morning. And then we have KiloView, Panasonic later in the afternoon. I believe they're going to be in here, correct, for that one? Then next week we have Epifam, we have Netgear and Matrox, and we have VizRT. And then in week 3, 11-18, Bird Dog, Canon, and what I'm really looking forward on the 20th, the NDI Roundtable. And then there's another show at 3 o'clock today, which is the NDI Primer, which is really exciting. I want to stress that I know, like today's show, we get a little high end into the technology a little bit. For those people who are new to NDI, new to video production, or you're one of those influencers, YouTubers who's looking to learn more about NDI, this primer is going to be a great place to start. It's with Paul Richards from PT Optics and Stream Geeks. He's really going to break stuff down in simple terms that people can understand to get just everyone excited about NDI and even people who don't know it. So I really recommend, if you like today's show and you're thinking, well, I'd like to know a little more of the basics, this is a great time to do it. I want to remind everyone that we're going to have more shows and your chance to win prizes. So that's it for me today. Tune in at 3 p.m. Tomorrow I'll be back at 10 a.m. with Dr. NDI. And we welcome you to this full month of NDI, our 6th annual NDI November. This is Gary Bettan saying, see you back soon. Great show, Miguel.